Alrighty, so today's lesson is focused on a different part of the essay. So this is just an introduction to main body paragraphs. Hopefully it won't be super long. We'll just cover the paragraph structure peel that we're going to be using and give you an example. So it's kind of informative as opposed to lots and lots of work that you're doing yourself. So it's important to listen and follow along, and then there's one task for you to do. So we've looked at introductions in another video, and hopefully you can find them in the playlist and have a look at that to remind yourself what an introduction is. So today we're moving on to our main body paragraph. So this is the good stuff. This is the filling, where you build on your evidence and produce your argument and justify it. So these are where you explain your ideas. So in the previous lesson or video, an introduction that was looked at was using the likable character reference, and we used Simon from C as Simon. So the main body paragraphs would be proving that Simon is a likable character. It would be using the events that you list in your introduction along with evidence and explanatory detail. And that's basically it. That's what they do. So your main body paragraphs are all about you trying to structure your ideas, put them together and explain them. So you can kind of structure them any way you like, but we tend to follow an acronym called PEEL, or you may do other ones in your class like Texas, Sexy, TEAR, TEAL, TP. They're all basically the same kind of thing that's trying to lead you to the same place. To begin with, we're just going to look at a really simple PEEL paragraph. There are ways to jazz this paragraph up and make it better and produce better grades, but we'll just start with the real basics to begin with, and if you feel confident with that, you'll be taught how to get better grades and build on that paragraph. But if you're struggling, the PEEL one works really well to keep it simple. So yeah, that's what we're going to use. So the structure to the essay is main body paragraph. You do 3 of these, they're separate, you do this 3 times. The reason we give you a structure is to ensure that you're going to hit the parts of the criteria. The issue is with going completely your own way is you may find what you end up doing is just describing the plot or missing the question or not addressing it. So by giving you a structure, something to kind of memorize, remember, guide you on your way, you ensure you're going to hit the parts of the criteria and actually address the question, which is really important. So PEEL. PEEL stands for point, example, explanation, link, or instead of example, you could have the word evidence, and they mean much the same. So point, example, explanation, link. I have some little hand gestures that can help you remember that as well, and hopefully I'll get to show you them at some point. So PEEL, the P, is your point. Your point is the focus for the paragraph. So this is where you state what you are going to talk about. By state, I don't mean I am going to show you Brian is likable. I am going to show you Simon is likable. Your point is you state it, but you try to take out things like I or me. Try and refrain from using them as much as possible. In essay writing, you might put it in at the end for your personal response, but you're going to try avoid it otherwise. So an example of a point is Brian's likable character is seen when he crashes the plane. So for a marker, they know you're talking about Brian, his character, crashing the plane. Gives a really clear focus. All right, so a point, your first sentence states the focus for the paragraph. It could be something like Brian's character is seen when blank. Simon's likable character is shown at the beginning when he plays football. Something like that. So it can be quite simple. Our point is often called a topic sentence or a statement. So there are different words that mean the same thing. You would be using keywords from the question in your point. It's a really good way to anchor your paragraph and know that you're actually linking and answering the question. So likable character are our keywords. So you've got a point. Then you move on to your example or your evidence. This means a specific example from the text. And that is a quote. So if you think about the fact that you're creating an argument, if you say your argument is that Brian or Simon's character is likable, or this setting is important, this relationship is interesting, you have to have something to back it up. If you were trying to convince your parents to let you go to the movies and you said, oh, I should go, I don't know, just cause, it's not going to be convincing. So evidence is always required to back it up. One piece is your minimum. 2 pieces is fantastic. So that's where we put a quote. So if you're not familiar with quotations, they are where you take something from the text and you copy it out. A quotation can be anywhere from probably like 3 or 4 words to maybe 10 to 12 words. In a typical exam situation, you need to have those memorized. So you can't have quotes that are a whole paragraph long. You really want them to be short, snappy, and get to your point. Quotations aren't dialogue. They might be, but they don't have to be. So dialogue is people speaking. You don't need to find people speaking and wait for that. You just find something in your text that you go back to the event, you read through it, and you think, yeah, that shows this character is brave, or yeah, that shows that this character has a good sense of humor. This shows that that setting makes this character have to be brave. You get where I'm going? So that's a quotation. Often we build quotations together and we find them together and we look at that. Okay, so that's what your evidence or your example is, something specific from the text. You can describe the event as well to go along with it, and that will just add more detail to your writing. Then explanation. So explanation is basically going to determine your grade. So if you think about the essay questions, you have to describe and explain. By stating a point, describing the event, and giving a quote, you've described. All right, you've fulfilled that part of the criteria. That part of the question is addressed. But the second part of the question really comes through our explanation and our link. And so that makes this stuff super important. If you're just describing, you're going to struggle to scrape into an achieved. Okay, but if you've got both parts of the question, you've got a secure achieved, and from there it's up to you to determine where you get your grade and how far up the grade spectrum you go. So E is for explanation, the second E. This is when you link your evidence to your argument and explain it. For example, you've got your quote, and then you would go, this shows Brian is a likable character because he did something brave. So I've linked to the second part of the question, and I'm just starting to explain it. So you link to your evidence. You state what your evidence shows, and then you explain how it shows it. The more detail that you do here, the better your grade will be. If you write one short sentence, yes, you've kind of explained, but you haven't done a great job. If you do 2, 3 sentences, you're definitely going to be getting into the realm of a better answer and a more detailed response. This part of the paragraph has to use the word because, or sometimes you can use the word as. Because means that you're explaining. If I asked you who your favourite athlete was, and you told me, and then I asked you, why are they your favourite athlete? You'd generally answer with the word because, or your favourite food, or your favourite instrument, or your favourite song, singer, whatever. So that's you explaining, and that's where because is such a good word to explain. So if you've got your keywords, you've got your evidence, and you've got the word because, you can find that in your paragraph, you're probably achieving. Okay, last bit of the paragraph is a link. So this is where you link to the author's purpose. This is what they were trying to do or show. So you think about it, the writer is writing a story or a poem or a short story or a film, but they're not just doing it for entertainment only. They're trying to show us a message or make us think about something. So that's what you're trying to think. What were they trying to make me think about? You should try and explain this too, all right? And that's that word because. You should be trying to do that. You explain your purpose, it's going to be better than just stating this is what the author was trying to show. You explain how or why they did that, you're going to go better in your essay responses. Linking also can be a link to yourself. So you can link to the author, or you can link to yourself, or you can do both, or you could link to the wider world. What this means is you can link to yourself as a personal response. This makes me feel proud. This makes me think about how I would respond. This makes me feel sad for them. And you go into detail. Linking to the wider world is where you try and think about how it fits in with something that's happened in the news recently or a historical event. So this makes me think about the recent coronavirus outbreak because, and then you'd go on. So linking to yourself and the world around you can be a tricky skill to have. It's not required, but it can help to show that you're connecting and engaging with the text, and that can help your grade as well. So let's put it into practice and have a look. So this is a paragraph from a Hatchet text study. So even if you don't know the book or you haven't studied it, that's okay, because we're just looking for the parts of the paragraph. So you're going to be looking for a point, example, explanation, and link. Okay, so copy it down. I'll have a read through it, and then you're going to try label or do it in different colors. So a likable character is Brian. He is likable when he bravely crashes the plane. A quote which helps to show this is, Brian eased back on the wheel and braced himself to crash. This helps to show Brian is a likable character because he crash lands a plane, even though that is difficult, but he knows it has to be done, so he does it. This makes him likable because I admire his bravery. The author's purpose is to show that even from the beginning, Brian has to make difficult choices, and he does them well. This makes me proud of Brian, and I do not think I would be able to do anything similar in the same situation. So have a pause, get that down, and label the parts of the paragraph. I'm assuming you've done that, and now we're just going to go have a look at that. So here I've labelled it as evidence where it's meant to be example. So my point is the first sentence. Then I go into a quote which helps to show this is my example or my evidence. My explanation is twofold. So I've explained how the quote shows that he's likable, and then I've explained why that makes him likable. So it's just one short sentence there, not the best, but I've got this bit here, so that helps. If I just had this one sentence, probably wouldn't help. This bit explains the quote as well. So see how that's taken 2 sentences minimum to do a good basic job. Then the link is to the author's purpose and then to myself. So I've done both of those parts of a link there. This is an achieved sort of paragraph. It's not amazing, it does the job, and it's got room for improvements. The purpose or the link is quite good. It's really building to something good. But the explanation can have a little more detail, and I could describe the scene or the event as well. What you'll notice I've also done here is put those keywords in bold. This is to show you that they're not just done in the first sentence, but it's in the explanation as well. Okay, so I've made it really clear in the last video that you really want to have links to the question throughout. So that's what that does. If you've been looking at color coordination, that's the same one, but broken into colors. So there's a little bit of yellow and green, which is some description through a statement and evidence. And then there's plenty of explanation through these bits here. A little more balance, a little more description would probably help, because that helps to show that you've described the character a little bit more and the scene a little bit more. So simple as that. That is your first introduction to Peel. So by the end of this, you should hopefully see what a main body paragraph is, what Peel is an explanation or a way of explaining. We've covered what a point, an example, an explanation, and a link is. Make sure you watch that through again. It will take a couple of times to sink in. I've gone through that the more detail you add, the better your grade is going to be, and that a quotation is the best form of evidence or example. This is a direct copy of words from the text. It doesn't have to be dialogue. It doesn't have to be people speaking. So, body paragraphs, first lesson on them, well done. That is it.